All right, welcome everyone to the Dave Cooper Live Show, where we feature the people, the products, and the process helping us all to build it better. And today we are talking about holistic mass timber systems with Samuel Dicke and Taylor Cabot of Timberlab. Today is about full service mass timber project delivery stemming from a long history as a contractor. With a holistic view of building construction, Timberlab integrates mass timber into a commercial building, carefully coordinating the timber structural system with other building systems. How does this team design and construct mass timber roof systems offsite and install them locally with precision? How are they breaking records with high-rise construction? What legacy are they crafting with their Heartwood project? We're not just talking about high-rise and low carbon. We're talking about shake table tests, fire testing, and the structural advantages of tall timber. But we can't do any of this without our sponsors. So before we get started, a big shout out to Forward Solutions Group, who is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Are you looking to start a factory, optimize your existing factory, streamline your production, or take your team to the next level? Whatever your needs are, Forward has a solution for you. You also want to learn more about their acquisition of ModuCore, an ERP solution for offsite manufacturing. Reach out to our good friend Ben Hershey at ben@forwardsolutionsgroup.com. Also, a big shout out to Howick Ltd. They have a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and produces innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. You want to check out their Machines Buyer's Guide for offsite construction, modular construction, or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Learn more at howickltd.com. All right, everybody, we got an awesome show for you today, so we're going to hop right into it. Please welcome Taylor Cabot and Sam Dicke to the show. Welcome.
Hey, Dave, great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Taylor, welcome to you as well.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, got it. We got a little bit of a delay, but that's okay. We'll make it through. All right. So listen, I mean, this is exciting. You guys have built one of the tallest mass timber structure in the world. Taylor, you were the project manager on it. I mean, this is all exciting stuff. This is a big win for offsite construction. I'm looking forward to learn more about this. But before we get into it, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will call a family member and have them on this show. And it gets quite embarrassing. You can ask some previous guests that tried to get away with something. But we're not going to start there. Taylor, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into this business?
So I trained as an architect. And came out during the Great Recession, which was a wonderful time to come out into the world, and actually kind of found myself falling into construction and fell in love with the industry. Really liked being hands-on and being involved in the projects. And then I transitioned from construction back to a design build firm, where I was really driven to build community-minded, resilient structures. And that kind of just naturally dovetailed into building out of mass timber. And I was involved back in 2014 with some mass timber structures and haven't really left since, just completely fully invested in it. Started with Carbon 12 and have moved forward to Ascent and now Heartwood, and absolutely love the industry and super excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, let's get into it. Sam Dicke, tell us a little bit about how you got into this awesome industry.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's kind of funny. I'm from Missouri originally and was a history and political science major in college who ended up going to grad school for public policy. So in between my first and second year of grad school, just randomly took an internship out in Portland, Oregon in 2016, right when the first certified mass timber manufacturer was coming online. And I was working for Clackamas County, which was a predominantly rural timber producing county, just in the metro region of Portland. And we were looking on how to increase economic development for some of our rural communities. And we identified mass timber as one of the ways and one of the tactics that we could use to bring family wage jobs out to the region and restart some of the mill economies there. So for 4 years, I actually spent time at the county and successfully recruited a manufacturer to the region. But as I like to say, being in the public sector was amazing, but when I met the folks at Timberlab, it was a perfect opportunity for me to take the step and actually start, helping the growth of mass timber, not just locally within the region, but throughout the entire United States and growing the industry. So great to be a part of the team and see mass timber grow all over the country.
Yeah, and it's growing fast. And we got some breaking news, according to Taylor and Sam, that we're going to talk about at the end of the show. So if you are watching, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Make sure you get your tweets on. And if also you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, you're missing out on those 10,000 hours every month that are being watched by people like Sam and Taylor on a regular basis every month, trying to keep up and catch up on what's happening in this fast-moving industry. All right, let's get into it, you two, right? Mass timber. Taylor, I got to go straight to you on this, right? Project manager of the tallest mass timber ever built. How did that happen? Like, how did you even get to the point where you were the project manager on such a large job? And then tell us a little bit what it was like, working on that project.
Yeah. So ironically, I built the tallest wood timber. I was the project manager on the tallest wood timber building previous to that, which is Carbon 12 based in Portland, Oregon. So the irony of beating your own self was evident every day. But of course, this was on steroids, right? Carbon 12 is an 8-story structure, 95 feet. And then we turned right back around and did ascent, 4 years later. And we were looking at 284 feet, 26 stories. So it was a really big push for us to kind of take that on. But the funny thing about building bigger isn't necessarily that it's more complicated. It's just that there's more pieces. And so, the length of things and all the numbers start quadrupling and doubling. But if you really look at it, it's like building, a 2-story building. You just build it over and over and over again. So
yeah. And so I wanted to start off with this, right, to get into the why mass timber, so people really understand the magnitude of what can be built today with mass timber, how many stories you can build and all that. So Sam, why don't you talk to us a little bit about, for you and for Timberlab, why mass timber out of all the construction options that are out there? Why did you choose this process?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's funny, when Taylor built Carbon 12 back in 2016, that was the tallest mass timber building at the time ever built in the United States. And really what we saw at the time was an opportunity to reduce the embodied carbon of a structure by anywhere from 30 to 50%. And being able to do that, to remove that much carbon from the building process and to build it faster as well, to build the building faster, really allowed us to open up a whole new realm of possibilities. So I mentioned previously how I got into the industry was working for Clackamas County. You had the opportunity to bring jobs back to rural areas, which was something that I was particularly passionate about. Then you had the opportunity to reduce the embodied carbon of the structure. And then you had a more efficient build on top of that. Those reasons just kind of lined up perfectly for me about, why mass timber makes so much sense. And I think if you asked every person on our Timberlab team, which is, I think when Taylor and I came on board, we were right around 18 or 20. Now we're almost topping 100. So just been growing crazy over the last couple of years. Every single person on our Timberlab team has their own personal why as to how mass timber can impact the built environment and provide a better environment for the future.
Sure. Well, Sam and Taylor, one of the things, as you mentioned there, you're growing and, you're hiring. So let's just put that out there right now for people that can't stay the full 45 minutes with us. Just know right now they cannot hire fast enough is what I heard. So if you're interested in this, and again, breaking news coming out at the end here, if you're not a West Coaster, you might want to stick around for this breaking news. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely are hiring at a very fast pace. We're trying to bring people on to our team. If you go to our website, www.timberlab.com, you can go right on there. Up at the top, it says careers. We are hiring interns. So if you're in college and you're looking for a great opportunity to do what Taylor does and build some of the tallest buildings out of mass timber in the world, we're hiring people. We're also hiring people in our BIM for fabrication teams at our shops, as well. So looking for interns and full-time folks as well. Definitely looking to bring people on.
Yeah, I bet you are. Let's just touch on that before we go a little further here, right? You do a lot of time with students, interns, bringing people on to help educate, people outside of our community to bring them into the community. How important is it to both of you, Taylor on a job site and Sam in the office, to have these younger people coming in and really learning? And then how many of them actually stick around? Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, it's have seats at the table for everybody. The industry doesn't have to be the way that it was in the past. I really welcome you to come on back in.
Yeah, we're having some sound difficulties.
We are building a denser. All right.
That's okay. That's all right. So Sam, I'm gonna go to you. Taylor, if you want to go out and just come back in, and we'll see if we can fix that connection issue. Go ahead, Sam. What is your thoughts on the interns?
So, Dave, one thing. Yeah, absolutely. What's really interesting is that, even 10 years ago, wood sciences were not really being taught at America's universities. And it's only been within the last 5 or 10 years that colleges and universities are really starting to teach mass timber design and construction, which is really an exciting time for folks like Taylor and myself to be getting students involved in the industry, because we're regularly meeting with groups like Stanford University, UCLA, University of Oregon, Oregon State University, Clemson University. These are some big universities across the country that have partnerships with Timberlab or are looking to build partnerships so that we can bring more students on to learn hands-on, because as the industry grows and evolves, we need young people who are innovative, who are exciting, who are looking for a different way to do things. And we really feed off of that energy and that excitement, I think. And that's why we love bringing on interns. We usually bring on about 5 or 10 per year. So definitely go over to the website and check out how to apply for that.
I'm going to apply.
Yeah, please, Dave. We'd love to have you.
I definitely, I'm coming in. It's the way you guys are growing. Yeah, I think it's awesome. All right, so Timberlab was born out of a 135-year-old company, right? So you guys have been around a long time, and it's not an old school company. It was a company that was founded on innovation and construction. Why don't we touch on that, and then let's talk about the services and let's talk about how you solve building with mass timber.
Yeah, absolutely. So Timberlab was really born out of a large general contractor based in San Francisco called Swinnerton Builders. Back in 1888, Swinnerton was founded and known for building some of the most iconic buildings in California. And really in 2017 was looking at mass timber as a potential building solution system when the First Tech Federal Credit Union project was being built in Hillsboro, Oregon by the Swinnerton Portland division. And at the time, the now president of Timberlab, Chris Evans, the representative for the mass timber supplier, Erica Spiritos, and the project manager on the project, Zach Brem, all got together and were looking at mass timber as a real solution and decided to come up with an idea, specifically a division within Swinnerton Builders that would be a full turnkey trade partner that focused on design assistance, procurement, strategic procurement, pre-construction, eventually morphed into fabrication, and then installation on site. And so really, we've grown our team now, separated officially from Swinnerton. Now we're our own official company called Timberlab, but still founded and rooted in those principles of a general contractor. So we see ourselves as builders first, as Taylor is a testament to that. She comes from building some of the largest mass timber buildings in the country. We see ourselves as builders first, but with timber engineering experience, with digital fabrication experience, with design assist experience. I mean, we've got architects, engineers, developers, contractors, all the likes. Like I said, heck, I was even a history major. So we've got everybody on our team.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome back, Taylor. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Sorry about that.
That's all right. We're still having a little bit of a delay, so maybe we'll just keep the video off and see if that works for us. All right, so let's talk about Timberlab and the services. All right, so why mass timber? What problem are we solving with it? Out of all the different construction techniques out there, let's get into this and really understand the value of this.
Yeah, so I think, why mass timber really boils down to us from a practical standpoint as builders. When we were building the First Tech Federal Credit Union as Swinnerton Builders in Portland, they quickly realized that building was delivered 4 months faster and 4% under what it would have been built out of conventional concrete or steel. And when that came out, everyone kind of sat around and went, wow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. We can build a product faster and for less money using this. And then on top of that, getting the beautiful aesthetic benefits of having an all exposed timber building for this large scale corporate office client was really just a no-brainer. And as we continue to build projects in Denver, Colorado, and San Francisco, down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and up and as far north as Portland, Maine, we hear clients all across the country saying the exact same things, which is they want to reduce their embodied carbon. They want to create spaces that are fantastic for people to live, work, and play in. And they want to do it in a way that's more efficient than the traditional building systems that really have become complicated and time consuming. And this is really a better way to build. And that's what we believe.
Yeah, it is. And we're going to show everybody some photos and some pictures here moving forward. So we're going to show exactly what you guys do. How does the process work, with mass timber? You talk about, having trade partners. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so we are a trade partner, so to speak. So we could come on as a subset to the general contractor, as a subcontractor to the general contractor. We could also be brought on by the architect, the owner, the engineer to do delegated design or design assist. As I mentioned, we've got folks on our team with 25 plus years of design experience working on some of the biggest and most exciting mass timber projects. So we've really figured out the most optimized way to improve performance and drive costs down. I mean, as builders, at the end of the day, we can design something that's absolutely beautiful, but if it doesn't pencil for you, the owner, it's not going to make a lot of sense and it's going to just live on the wall as a great design. We want to make sure that it actually comes to fruition and we're actually building these projects that we design. And so we can offer that real up-to-date cost feedback as we're going through the process, which allows for the owner and the developer, it reduces their risk in actually delivering the projects. And so that's one way that we kind of help drive the industry forward. And then another way is that we actually work with different partners all throughout the mass timber manufacturing space. And so what's really interesting and unique about Timberlab is that we have master purchase agreements with over 20 different mass timber manufacturers. So we're able to play the market when wood is going way up and we're seeing those roller coaster like times that we've seen over the last 2 years because of wildfires, because of COVID pandemic lockdowns and labor shortages and all of these other contributing factors. Timberlab is able to plug into the market at different areas and source from different manufacturing partners and break up the package. So we're supplying glulam from one manufacturer and CLT or mass plywood or any other products from other manufacturers, fabricating them on our facilities in Portland, and then sending out to the job site ready to be installed. And that allows us to be really strategic and actually drive costs down ultimately, which is going to help get the projects built.
So does that allow you to watch what the market's doing and then make your purchases up front?
Oh, absolutely, Dave. I mean, our folks, and you can kind of see how some of these buildings come together here.
Right.
And some of the images we've got, our estimating team, we've got, we estimated, I think, over 196 projects last year. And so that's everything from, this is a commercial office type space in Bend, Oregon, right? I mean, this is going to be about a 45,000 square foot new build down there. But I mean, we're doing things like the International Portland Airport project, which is, an unbelievably gorgeous, 400,000 square foot, 9-acre roof system. In Portland, we're doing community centers, we're doing tall residential type projects. It's really exciting to see the way that the industry has grown. And we're even doing, lab and life science buildings now, which were thought to previously have been, out of the realm of possibility for mass timber because of the specific vibration considerations. So, but we're figuring out ways with our in-house timber engineering department, working with some really talented and smart engineers all across the country on creative solutions to these types of problems.
Yeah, for sure. Go back to that picture, if you wouldn't mind, for a second, and walk us through, what we're looking at there in this structure, just real quick. So people that aren't familiar with it are here to learn a little more about your projects. I mean, walk us through what we're seeing. We see the framing, we see the glulam floor.
Yep, absolutely. So when we're talking about mass timber, just taking a whole step back, we're talking about a subset of engineered wood products, which basically contribute to the general skeleton of the building structure. So typically these buildings, are glulam post and beam. So these are glulam columns here that are going vertically, and then horizontally we've got glulam beams that connect them. And then what the real innovation in the industry, because glulam, actually, Dave, this is kind of interesting. The first glulam was invented over 100 years ago in upstate Michigan. So we've actually been building with glulam in this country for quite a long time. The real innovation is this product called cross-laminated timber, which is acting as the floor systems. And you know, if you imagine 2x4s that are glued together and then other 2x4s that are glued together on top of it and come out in 10 by 40 foot long sheets that act as the floor system, this is really the major innovation here. So you can kind of see one of these being installed here at that project in Bend that increases the capacity and the build time just immensely. We're able to build so much quicker because, as Dave, you talk about on the show all the time, the benefits of a prefabricated approach and a prefabricated system. But you can kind of see here how that all kind of plays together in that coordinated kit of parts. And so Timberlab, as a mass timber trade partner, would come on and coordinate the supply, installation, fabrication of this whole system, where we might be pulling CLT from one manufacturer, we might be pulling glulam from one other manufacturer, and maybe even a third manufacturer, but we're fabricating that product on our CNC machines, and then we're sending it out to site to be installed by our crews.
So, Sam, I'm going to just say this. So you guys are like the GOAT, greatest of all time. You're the quarterback. You guys are the ones bringing all the parts and pieces together and managing what's happening from start to finish, so the stakeholders get exactly what they want because they have somebody guiding them down the field.
You know, I don't think, Dave, anyone's ever compared us to Tom Brady, but if anyone's going to do it, I appreciate. I tend to think of us as like the old-timey telephone operators, you know?
Yeah.
You got one side over here that needs to get connected to another side, and we're patching people through. We're doing all of that in-house work, so both sides don't have to worry about it. And the benefit of that too, Dave, is that this coordinated approach, getting everybody to the table, we have this approach we call the silhouette table, which brings everybody together, talking and communicating constantly and effectively. It really breaks down these barriers of kind of that traditional design, bid, build model of construction, which can actually raise prices, add to more confusion. We're really building a synergistic and energetic team that comes together to creatively solve these problems together.
You know, Jennifer and I have traveled the world, you know, talking offsite, and we're going to be in Europe for, you know, a little over a month coming up this year, doing the same thing, mass timber, CLT being part of that journey. And some of the greatest projects that we have had the privilege to look at and showcase all had somebody like yourself, Sam, that is the quarterback of a project, right? Watching it from the very beginning to the very end is the key, in my opinion, to a lot of successful offsite manufacturing. And I think, you know, what I'm hearing from you is that's kind of what you guys are doing. You're controlling that process and getting all the stakeholders together.
You know, I think because we've got this centralized team that focuses only on mass timber, that allows us to be deliberately focused. You know, Adam Smith talks about in economic terms, you've got ultra specialization, right? And Timberlab as a mass timber trade partner actually is able to coordinate with the architect, the engineer, the developer, the owner, even all the way down to the manufacturing community, and tie those kind of pieces together to be that conduit to create a project that's really smooth and seamless.
Love it. I love it. Great. I know you have some more photos and stuff. We're working with Taylor to bring her in. Taylor, are you with us? She got a lag.
I'm here, guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. We can hear you just fine. Welcome back.
Back to Taylor.
All right. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening.
Hey, listen,
No
it
worries.
is live. If it can go wrong, it will. Trust me, I've been doing this a long time, and it's just the way it goes. So we're just going to keep moving on with it here. So, you know, one of the things, Taylor, Sam, that, Sam mentioned was, or I mentioned in my opening monologue was shake tests. So these structures just aren't wood structures that are going up old school style. You actually have testing facilities and put things to work. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the image on the screen here, Dave, this is actually, I know we're only on floor 3 here, but if you actually look today in San Diego and beautiful sunny La Jolla, we're 10 stories up on this shake table that's actually going to be testing over the next year all of these different ways to actually test a rocking wall post-tension CLT building. And so if you look at it here, you can actually get a good image of what that CLT 9-ply thick CLT image panel is actually doing there, acting as the wall system, which is really unique. And so that's not codified right now in the IBC, but the testing that is led by Colorado School of Mines, Lever Architects, Coughlin, Porter, Lundin, Timberlab, and a bunch of other teams out there. I mean, I think there's over 50 partners on the project, are doing is really investigating how we can use this rocking wall system effectively in tall wood buildings all up and down the West Coast. And so it's really exciting to be a part of this research and development. You know, in addition to the timber, you know, the shake table tests, we're also doing tests. We were involved in, and Taylor can talk more to this, for the fire rated test for the first ever three hour fire rated glue lam and 2-hour CLT panels that we did in Milwaukee at the Woods Products Testing Lab. You know, I think, you know, research and development is a big part of who we are and helping to advance the industry and move it forward.
Yeah. You know, so that's sitting on a big table. Is that what you're telling me? And that big table shakes?
That is essentially a big hydraulic 4-dimensional table that is actually much larger than it appears. It actually goes all the way out to kind of where the little, you know, the trucks are on the side there. The whole thing actually moves and can simulate everything from, you know, every major earthquake that's ever happened in the world. This thing can simulate it in some capacity. But if you go down underneath in the underlays and annals of it, it really is a labyrinth and a cave of just giant hydraulic equipment. I mean, you're kind of, it's basically a giant bomb that sits below this massive table. And it's the largest outdoor shake table in the world. And that's at University of California, San Diego.
Well, we're going to have to go out there and live stream a shake test one time. I think that would be
love to
so
have
much
you out,
fun.
Dave. Yeah, would love to bring you through.
That's right up my alley. So, all right, love it. Let's get into some projects here. I know this is where Taylor will chime in as well as we're moving forward. You know, the PDX T-Core project was a 400,000 square foot roof at Portland International Airport. Talk to us a little bit.
Yeah, so, you know, the image here that I'm pulling up, Dave, is actually kind of showcases nicely what we were doing out there at
Wow,
PDX.
that's beautiful.
So you're actually looking at the largest ever curved glue lam beams created in the United States. Those are 80-foot long curved glue lam beams that were produced by Zippo laminators in Eugene, Oregon. And then on top of that is a 2-inch thick product called mass plywood panel. So there's a 10 by 40 foot sheets that they're actually curving and bending over the curved glue lam beams to create this massive 9-acre roof structure, which is being not only, this is even the crazier part, Dave, this is being built about a half-mile away from the actual roof of the Portland International Airport, and it's being disassembled right as we speak and installed above the existing roof structure. And so this is a full modular build on the largest ever construction project there at the airport. I mean, just unbelievably beautiful.
And what is the span? I mean, is there supports on the end of this, or is it just a full open span?
There are giant steel Y columns that are actually installed that these things sit on, which is just unbelievable to look at when you see it being installed there. It is really cool too. You know, underneath these, we've actually installed over 36,000 pieces of 2x6, which are lattice that actually cover up all the mechanical. So when you look up, you just see this canopy. The architect, ZGF, wanted to create this feeling that you were walking through the woods. And so you know how on a nice sunny day and you're in the woods, everyone in the Pacific Northwest loves going for hikes. I'm sure in Pittsburgh, same thing. You know, you go through, you see the light kind of shine through on the ground below you, and these giant skylights open up, creating this just unbelievable effect. You know, Portland is known right now, Dave, I don't know if you've ever flown in, they're known for the carpet on the ground with this kind of funky design. So everyone, when, you know, got popular about 10 years ago, when you came back to Portland, you took a picture, a selfie of your feet on the ground. Now everyone's going to be taking a picture of the roof saying, oh my gosh, look at this. This is incredible.
Well, you know what? It's warm. It's inviting. It makes you feel like you want to be around it. I mean, that's the fun stuff about mass timber and why you see it being used in offices and universities. I mean, there's studies behind the psychological effects of using mass timber, correct?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. The University of Oregon Center for the Built Environment actually does a lot of research on this and has found that wood is actually a really great product for reducing your stress in the built environment. So they found that employees are actually more productive have lower resting heart rate, lower blood pressure when they work inside spaces that have natural elements. It's called biophilia is the term that they've kind of coined for that. But I think that's one of the reasons that humans are actually naturally driven to be in environments where they're connected to more natural materials as compared to kind of traditional concrete and steel structures. And you can definitely see that here in the Portland Airport project as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's great. And I think the stakeholders that were on it, you said ZGF was the architect?
ZGF is the architect. KPFF out of Portland is the engineer. And then it's a joint venture between Hoffman and Skanska, general contractors that have come together. Timberlab and Swinnerton have come on as the mass timber supplier and trade partner underneath them. So we've handled the full wood scope of the building. One other interesting component, Dave, that I'll just mention that made this project so revolutionary is that all of the wood material is sourced from the Pacific Northwest. And you might remember when wood was going all over the place, up and down, the Port of Portland, really, they had to make a decision. Are we going to stick with this locally sourced timber that could potentially cost more? Or are we going to source this from the cheapest place that we can find it? And they made a decision to support the economic development of the Coquille tribe, of the Girl Scouts of America, of dozens of other local and independent owners of wood supply, so that they could say, when you walk through this building and you look up and you point, you can say, I know exactly where those trees came from, which is kind of the end goal of, I think, the mass timber industry, which is be able to build buildings in your area using your local material. It's kind of that farm to table movement. Now they call it forest to frame.
Right. So I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this structure and I'm really thinking, talk about sustainability, right? You're using the local resource, a resource that can grow quickly and be, reused. I guess it's very sustainable is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So, mass timber, I think, as I mentioned previously, is one of the ways to reduce the embodied carbon of a structure. It can actually reduce by the embodied carbon by anywhere from 30 to 50%, estimates have it. And so being able to pull that carbon out of the atmosphere is really transformative and revolutionary for the construction industry as we're facing a global climate crisis right now. One thing else that I think is kind of interesting too is that, mass timber is a relatively local product, right? It's sourced either from the North American continent, or there's manufacturers in Europe that we work with as well. But when you're talking about steel and concrete, oftentimes some of that material is mined in Brazil, shipped to China, come down through Canada. So, no one knows this better than anyone than Taylor when she worked on the Ascent project, and trying to get material through, being able to source material at the right time can be kind of a challenge, but using, products that are more local can have significant advantages.
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine on the tallest hybrid mass timber building in the world, Ascent, that would be the case as well. So Taylor, I know you've been awfully quiet there. I know there's a little bit of delay, but we really want to hear from you on this. So being the project manager of the tallest hybrid mass timber building in the world, why don't you walk us through what this project is, and I'll show some photos at the same time with Sam here.
Yeah, so this is a really exciting project. It's in the heart of Milwaukee, has a beautiful view of the lake, existing kind of land that the developer had owned for many years, kind of waiting for the right product for the right space. The ground actually, there isn't super great. So building an all concrete tower in this location would have required a pretty expensive foundation package. So they went ahead and looked into wood and realized that the lightness of wood would actually allow them to build quicker and faster and lighter, allowing them to put more stories and put less money in their foundation. So there's 6 stories.
Hold on one second. You're telling me that building has a wooden foundation?
It does not have a wooden foundation. It has 6 stories of concrete on the base.
Yeah.
But if they had gone up the full 25 stories in concrete, they would have had to do a much more significant foundation package to support that added weight.
Love it.
Yeah. So they looked at the product. There's 6 stories of parking here and a pool and all sorts of wonderful things that really want to be in concrete. And then on top of that, they placed a 19-story wood structure on top of it, which is all of the units, the apartment units. There's 259 units in the building, all of them with beautiful views looking out at the city. And then, of course, fully exposed timbers in every single unit. So everybody gets to experience that beautiful biophilia warmth of wood in all of their units.
I love that. So we were in Switzerland recently, and I was on a mass timber project, and they were using CLT. So are the walls also on this project CLT? Is it just the floor and beams and the roof?
Correct. Yeah, it's just columns, beams, and the ceiling structure, the floor structure. All the walls are just, typical light gauge metal, so it looks very familiar to a lot of, and a lot of the parts and pieces that fit inside of it are exactly the same as you would in a traditional stick-built structure.
Got it. I got it. And it's great that you're leaving some of it exposed, because over there they would cover it up. It's just normal building practices for them. And literally they cover up this beautiful wood. But I also understand, I mean, you got to run your utilities and everything else.
Totally. Yeah, we've really found in housing, there's a sweet spot of exposure to concealed, as we like to call it, where you wrap it. And that's one, to hide all the services you're talking about. But two, it allows you to reduce the timber back in those areas and rely on your gypsum wallboard to provide the fire coverage. And that really makes these buildings pencil when you're not, putting a ton of fiber where it's not going to be seen.
Yeah. And the thing I really like about what you were saying in the beginning when you were talking about the foundation system, I mean, what a huge advantage that is, being able to use mass timber in that way and use less of the concrete.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what allows us, besides the speed of erection, it's one of the main reasons why we're going to either pencil out to be about the same or sometimes even cheaper on some of these really large projects, is this reduction in weight that we're seeing to the foundation, to piles, digging deeper, trying to hit bedrock. It's really lucrative in a lot of sections of the country where you have poor soil conditions.
Yeah. And where are you with this building now? Is it completed?
Yeah, it topped out. It topped out in August. Super exciting. So, it's available. All the units are available for rent. It leased up faster than anybody had anticipated. So get it while it's still available, I guess I would say. But absolutely beautiful to walk through it, and very different from any apartment building you've probably ever been in before in your life.
So is this the gym inside that building?
Yeah, this is the gym on the first level. So you're seeing some of the largest columns because they're taking the most weight down here. And these are definitely the biggest wood columns I've ever installed on a project as well. I think the biggest one is about 3'6" across and about 2 feet wide. So you're not really going to put your arms around it like you would a small timber, but.
No, you're definitely not going to be putting your arms around it, but it's beautiful. I mean, it looks like a spa.
Yeah.
There actually is a spa in there too, Dave.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Awesome.
But just imagine, I mean, being able to work out in that environment, or this being your bedroom view. I mean, you're up on the 21st floor looking out at the lake. I mean, it's just an unbelievably beautiful building.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful building, and perfect timing, right? We need housing, and this gives people an opportunity to have just that. All right, let's talk about your Heartwood project as well. First housing timber building, right, for workforce housing?
Yeah, it's as far as we know, it might be the very first workforce housing tall timber structure in the United States. It also utilizes the newest code path that allows mass timber to be built and fully permitted without any variances or special requests. And it really dovetails nicely in with the Ascent building, just because Ascent was really going for that luxury feel, trying to entice people in with these high-end amenities. And this building's, really doing the opposite. It's trying to provide housing to masses. It's in Seattle, Washington. So totally an area of the country where we're facing almost a housing crisis,
right?
Where the average worker can't afford to rent a unit inside the center of the city. So being able to kind of provide this product that people in their head think of as being kind of high end, but bring it in affordably and still give them the same kind of feeling and beauty and strength that we're seeing has been, really kind of lovely to do the two projects this close together and kind of have different paths forward.
So workforce housing with mass timber, so you get all the look and feel and benefits of the higher end buildings, maybe just not the higher end amenities, but the building itself is still built pretty much the same way. You still get the value of what mass timber offers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even more important too, in this project, this is center city, super tight site here. You're looking at it. This is all we have.
Yeah.
And this project is going to go up in 13 months. That's the full build for the full building. So we're turning housing over much quicker than needed, getting these units to market and getting the people who need them most into them. Some of this was a traditional concrete structure. It probably would have added another 3 to 4 months to the construction schedule.
Well, right. And that's what matters right now is those heads on beds. Sam, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Taylor, to your point as well. Could you talk a little bit about what happened last spring when there was that concrete strike? And luckily we got the pad poured, but if that had been for the whole building, I think it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd still be on level 2. Unfortunately, this is, Seattle kind of specific, but we had a strike going on related to concrete and the entire city kind of shut down. And once we were able to get our slab on grade poured, we're rolling trucks in every day and putting a floor up a week. And, you're looking around at some of the other places that are just, covered in scaffolding, waiting desperately to try to get a pour scheduled. So this really was kind of the right product for the right time. That we saw, and we were really lucky that we were able to get what we were and get this project off the ground.
So we're looking at here is the erector set of how that goes together, right? So you got the floor system down, the piers on the first floor, and then as those piers and columns carry through the weight load, do they just fit, like interconnect with each other, almost like a jigsaw?
Yeah, totally. So this project, more than any project I've ever done, normally we utilize little steel connectors to hold the beams and columns together. One of the other innovative things about Heartwood is that it's like a Lincoln log set. We've used our CNC machine, the Timberlab one in Portland, Oregon, to CNC little mortise and tenon pockets into all the columns and beams and allow them to slot together to hold them together. So there's no steel pieces holding them. You can kind of see some beam shelves here at the top of the columns that have been routed out. And then we're just really relying on screws to hold this thing together. So it takes the erector set and, takes it to the highest level here. And it allowed us to save time and money by removing that steel from the building. It also allowed us to have a better carbon story. That steel has its own footprint, its own supply chain, that we aren't utilizing anymore, and allowed us to erect this building extremely fast.
Yeah, so we got a picture of it up on the screen now, basically how it works its way through the floor and then connects to the beam on top.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for pulling that up, Sam.
All right, Sam's
always on it with the photos.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
That's what they say.
It is, and you're utilizing a crane, you're putting it in place. There's no forms, there's no rebar, there's no reinforcement, no pump truck that has a broken pump. You're just going up, right?
Totally. And when you're in the center of the city like that too, how quiet it is, right? I mean, it's 4 or 5 guys dropping pieces with a crane and then putting a couple screws in. So there are people's living rooms that you feel like when you're standing in that building, you can reach out and touch. And what a difference for them to not be around a loud construction site, filled with a lot of really, a lot of labor going on, but then also just a lot of equipment noises as well.
Yeah. And building this way, you said takes 3 to 4 months off a traditional project is what you're kind of estimating?
Yeah, the biggest issue in concrete is the reshore. You have to keep up all that shoring to support the concrete for a week or two before you can pull that, when it's fully cured. We can be on the deck below the day after it's done installed. So not only does it go up a little bit faster than concrete, but the biggest advantage is that all of the other trades can come in right behind us and get that building enclosed faster, get that MEP in faster. So, as long as everybody's queued up properly to follow quickly behind, and the supply chain can allow that, we can really carve significant times off the schedule.
Right. Well, by doing offsite construction and using the components that you're building in your manufacturing facility to put it all together, you have a lot more control over that ballet of coordination. Versus having to wait on a million different moving parts and trucks and concrete trucks. And, there's so many different variables. This reduces a lot of the variables and makes it easier and simpler to bring all the trades in on the time frame they need it.
Totally. I mean, while we were waiting on that concrete strike to clear itself and to get that slab poured, we were churning this building out and we put it in storage. We had a warehouse in Portland and we put all the pieces in there wrapped up and labeled, and it just sat waiting. And that, that would have been impossible to do if we were kind of stick building this thing out there.
Sure.
And so it really has its advantages, especially in, urban areas where we're trying to bring a lot of pieces together.
Right. So let's talk about the urban area. Let's talk about fire testing. This is always the big question, especially to the consumer, right? The consumer only knows what they know from the 1930s or whatever, when they saw the big fires happen in the cities and wood structure. But what they have to understand is it's not what you think with these mass timber structures. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's totally accurate. I mean, I think the biggest example that we can give is that when people think of the burning wood building, you're thinking of a stick building. You're thinking of 2x4s going up, surrounded by other things that hold heat and catch fire pretty quickly. And so when you envision that, that's kind of the picture that you have, and you have to think of your own fireplace. You start building a fire with kindling, right? You start with small little pieces of wood. And what's the thing that's really hard to get to burn in your fireplace? The biggest log. That's right. So if you look at when you glue all these pieces together, you get this opportunity to have a large circumference of wood that burns slowly and actually chars itself. And that char actually insulates the wood inside and protects it. And there are pictures of massive fires that have happened in cities where the steel has melted and crumbled, and the huge wood rafters are still standing. They're just charred, they're just blackened, but they're actually still standing. So we've also moved forward to do a bunch of these really cool fire tests, which if you get an opportunity to go see one, do it. It's really fun. Where we even, we double check that. We test these things. We usually test to failure. We really haven't had a failure in one of these tests from what we've assumed. They do really well, and the char layer has been, kind of known and proven over and over again since the 1970s.
I think that's so important to understand about mass timber, and it was definitely something that I think needs to be talked about, and we should probably do a show on that too. I mean, Andrew Silly's already saying, yeah, Dave, take us to the live shake table. Andrew, I'm going to take you out there and I'm going to let you put your lounge chair on it. You can sit there and get shooken and shake. Andrew Seeley does a lot of testing on a property somewhere in Texas, so he builds all kinds of really cool structures. He loves mass timber as well. So good to see you, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. Hey, let's say hello to a few people, and then we're going to get into our breaking news, and we're getting kind of the end of the show here. Jerry McCahey, good morning from a very wet Los Angeles. I don't know if you all know Jerry, but Jerry has been in the offsite space for a long time. In Tekra. All right. Across the pond, Andrew Wilkinson in London. Good to see you. Says Happy New Year to you all and your audience, Dave and Jennifer. Well, thank you very much. Happy New Year to you as well. Ooh, big guys in the house. Greg Ugaldi, Dave, when Sam and Taylor talk about faster production for less cost, that gets the development community's attention. And just so you know who Greg Ugaldi is, Taylor and Sam, he is the past chair of the NAHB, the top guy for the National Association of Home Builders. So, Greg, thank you for tuning in today. What's your thoughts on that, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Also, first of all, Jerry, great to hear from you. I'm also in Los Angeles. It is surprisingly wet. That's why I got my boots and my jacket on here today. But yeah, excited to see a lot of great folks on the call here today with us. And yeah, great to have you guys here.
Yeah, we got Jory Wisniewski on. Hey, Jory, good to see you. Urban Machine. They have a machine that recycles lumber from a demolition site, pulls the nails, everything out, spits it out, and then tells you can reuse your wood right there. How cool is that?
Jory, I got to see your shop at Greenbuild. Awesome. Eric Law is a good friend. He was with Splinterton for years as the director of innovation and helped Timberlab, develop a lot of processes and procedures in the early stages. Actually worked on developing a machine in that Taylor somewhat used on a project that she was working on in Bend, actually, with Eric before he went off and started Urban Machine. So awesome to see you here and love the innovation.
All right. Appreciate it. Rob Hoskin, great to hear from the Builders of Ascent. I went to architecture school with the architect. This project is a huge achievement for all involved. Can we hear about embodied carbon reduction in those projects due to use of mass timber?
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the things that we love the most about mass timber is when you cut down this wood and reutilize it, you don't allow it to rot or burn up or get used for another purpose. All that carbon stays in the wood, right? It doesn't go anywhere. It's there for the life of the building. The other thing we always like to say is the life of a mass timber building, we feel pretty confident is going to be a lot longer than your typical building. One, because they're so beautiful, nobody would want to take them down. But if they did, for some reason, this wood is very easy to be reused. Think of all the barns that are coming down across America and how we're repurposing them and reusing them to make other structures. The design for disassembly is a big buzzword, right, that we're all hearing right now. And wood is really perfect for that. There's not even a recycle content to it. It's literally a complete reuse. So you don't have that downcycling. It'd be very easy to take these timbers and be able to reutilize them somewhere else as well. There's Woodworks calculators that are always really fun. So I unfortunately don't have some of the stats for Ascent with me, but we can definitely plug those over to you as well. And they kind of tell you exactly how much carbon you've taken out of the atmosphere and have trapped inside the building.
Appreciate the comment there. Thank you. Michael Bruce. Good program, Dave. Very interested in mass timber structures. Are humid climates like the southern U.S. problematic for CLT applications? And Michael Bruce, he does laser scanning. So if you need your foundation scanned for your building and your offsite, that's what he does. It's good to see you, Michael.
Well, Michael, I mean, we're definitely working on projects in the Southeast. Actually, Taylor is getting going on a project in a very hot and humid Raleigh, North Carolina.
How does she have time?
She does it all.
Good question. But no, this is a really great question. I think that's right after fire, the next fear of everybody is water, right? So, which is a kind of fun 1-2 punch. The funny thing is that we've been building timber here in the Pacific Northwest the longest, which is extraordinarily wet climate. We see a lot of weather. The wood has its own natural moisture content, which actually is good. It allows it to take water. It's not bone dry, right? I would actually say we're more concerned usually when we're bringing wood to a super dry climate, and we want to make sure that it doesn't dry out too quickly. The humidity actually helps the wood be more stable. And then, of course, we are relying on an envelope. You're only as good as your envelope system to kind of protect it long term. But, the majority of heating and cooling systems now are really good about understanding how to keep a building climatized. I think we all remember sick buildings of maybe drying in a building a little too much. And now we're bringing in lots of really great air and filtering that and providing kind of the right set points. So the wood is probably happier inside these buildings than it would be anywhere else, unless it was back out in the forest again. So.
Great. Thank you for the question, Michael. All right. Last question, everybody, and then we're going to wrap up with our breaking news. So don't go anywhere. We're almost there. And we're going to talk a little bit about some upcoming projects here. All right. George Ryman, understanding the fire rating of CLT, if there is an event, would it be possible to save the structure? Great question.
Yeah, that is a wonderful question, and it's very similar to what we see, with other materials when there's a fire. Same with steel. Portions of the wood would be, the char layer is to keep the building standing as long as possible and to allow people to safely exit the building. The hope, of course, is that most of these structures have a sprinkler system, and that this would be, set off and cleared very quickly. And so you might be talking about a replacement of only one or two pieces that would be required if the char layer was, compromised in the fire. So that you're really talking about a fire that's 1 to 2 to 3 hours long is when you start to get into replacements. You could be able to replace, we've done it before. It's the same as taking a steel column or beam out of a building. You kind of have to jack up a small area and pull them out. But it's really designed to protect the occupant and to get them out safely in those long-term fires.
Yeah, great question, George. But listen, any building that's on fire for 2 hours, the steel, even the studs in the wall, right? If we're using, cold form steel studs and what have you, there's always going to be remediation, and it's never going to be a simple thing. Everything has to be looked at structurally. All right, breaking news, and then let's talk about where you're going. You guys are hiring. You're on a hiring spree. You cannot hire fast enough, and it sounds like you really need to hire now. What's going on?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, this Timberlab has grown exponentially in the Pacific Northwest. We're seeing just a tremendous amount of growth all over the country. We just finished a project in Portland, Maine, topped out on a project in Charlotte, North Carolina, got projects going in Boston and New York, and all of it down the Mid-Atlantic and obviously the Midwest. We're really excited to kind of tease here on the show, Dave, that we are making a substantial investment in the Southeast and actually opening up a new fabrication facility where we're going to have multiple machines come online to service the Southeast, the Midwest, and the Mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. So Timberlab is now bi-coastal. We're really excited to announce that here today. And yeah, super excited to continue to see the growth of mass timber around the country and help lead that movement.
All right, a little applause there for some fun. Perfect. I love it. All right, so let's wrap up here. You guys have some upcoming things happening. Why don't we talk about those real quick? And then Taylor, at the very end here, I want you to let us know. If there were other women interested in this space, what would you tell them? Sam, then we're going to wrap up with that, Taylor. So go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, it's just been awesome to be on here, Dave. We really do appreciate it. We're seeing projects all over the country. We're seeing tall, as Taylor mentioned, multiple tall residential structures from San Diego to Denver. Taylor's just about to start another one in Denver that's going to be the tallest building in Colorado at 12 stories. But projects all over the country. It's just been great to see the movement and the growth. And over the last couple of years, as both Taylor and I have been in the industry, we've really kind of moved away from shouting into the wind to being carried by the wind, and our sales are really being propelled forward. So excited to see the shift really starting to happen as mass timber becomes more mainstream.
Perfect. And people are going to be able to see you at the Mass Timber Conference this year, right?
Absolutely. We are the premier sponsor of the Mass Timber Conference. Come by. We're giving an exclusive tour. Sign up at the internationalmasstimberconference.com. We're going to be bringing about 200 people through the facility, through the IMTC. And then later that evening, stop by. We're always the beer and wine and drink sponsor. So you can get a free Portland beverage at our booth, which is always a lot of fun. All
right. And that's coming up. You see it in the ticker down below, so you can sign up for that. Taylor, I don't even know what to say. Every time Sam says something, he says you're getting ready to start another project somewhere.
I didn't mention this before, Dave. Taylor is truly an all-star.
Taylor, it sounds like you need some mini-me's so you can duplicate yourself. What would you tell other women in the industry about coming into the construction world, especially offsite, mass timber, or any of the offsite industries?
Yeah, this is kind of the perfect time. I touched on it a little bit earlier, and I wasn't sure if anyone could hear me with my lovely live feed, but I think some of the fears that we've had in the past about construction is like, this is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it, and it's always going to be that way. And mass timber has really turned that on its head. There's no experts, right? We're all learning, we're all growing. We're trying to provide the best product. We're trying to learn the most that we can. So there's plenty of seats at the table for everybody. Nobody can turn around and tell you, well, this is the way we've done it, and it has to be this way, because no one's ever done it before, or they've only done it one or two ways before. So I love that about this industry. I love that we can sit down and question everything. Sometimes we just do things to do them. But this is really the opportunity to invite people in and bring new ideas in that could revolutionize the industry. I felt extremely lucky and welcomed. I sit in meetings often surrounded by women, which in the past, when I wasn't in mass timber, that wasn't true. So I think it's a really inclusive community, and I encourage everybody to take another pass at it, or if you're new to us, to learn more about it, plug in, come talk to me, check in with Timberlab. We have a lot of wonderful people. We have some mini-me's. We're looking for more mini-me's. And I really encourage everybody to look in. Obviously, the modular allows you to have a little bit more flexibility. It's not just job sites that we need people on. You can be remote. You can work from home. You can work in now our multiple offices across the country. So I really think also that the day-to-day workings have changed from kind of the old traditional work in your trailer from 6 to 4 concept of construction.
Well, that's right, because jobs are typically on time and on budget in the offsite world versus the traditional way where you had to sleep in the trailer and stay in there. And no, I'm just teasing. But you're absolutely right. Not just in the office, but you also have a new production facility as well. And the way you're building allows more opportunity for people that maybe aren't as strong as they used to have to be when we had to lift all these things manually. So it's really opened up big time. All right, one last comment. Somebody that you might know or have heard of in the past, Hardy Wenzel. How you doing, Hardy? Good to see you. He says, great mass timber presentation by Taylor and Sam from Timberlab on Dave Cooper Live. Timberlab is helping advance mass timber market adoption by adding value with steps along the way. Well done. Always good to hear from you, Hardy. All right, that's a wrap. Anything I missed?
I think we got it, Dave. But we got to have you come through the facility now.
Yeah,
and do an
totally.
exclusive tour.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think we can do the tour of his facility, and I think it'd be a lot of fun to join you as you're doing one of these buildings one time, and we could do our live show there as well, and really show how it's done. I think that would be a lot of fun as well. So I look forward to that, and putting Andrew Seeley on the shake machine.
Exactly, absolutely.
All right, so both of you stay right there. Do not go anywhere. I'll come back to you after the outro. And for the rest of you out there, make sure you tune in this Friday, BS Friday with Mark Bare Naked Willie. It's where you're going to learn about science of building and maybe a little BS as well. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Dave Cooper. Sam, Taylor, thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Good.